Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Assam, lays foundation stone of multiple projects worth more than $1.3 billion US. The US and the United Kingdom strike multiple Houthi targets in Yemen. India sets a formidable target of 399 runs for England on the third day of second test in Visakhapatnam. The Commonwealth Legal Education Association, Commonwealth Attorneys and Solicitors General Conference 2024 is set to conclude today in the national capital. President Draupadi Murmu along with Union Home Minister Amit Shah will grace the valedictory function. The conference is focused on cross-border challenges in justice delivery and important issues pertaining to law and justice like judicial transition and the ethical dimensions of legal practice, executive accountability and revisiting modern-day legal education were deliberated. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of multiple projects in the eastern state of Assam worth more than $1.3 billion US. The projects include foundation stone for Kamakhya Access Corridor to provide world-class amenities to pilgrims visiting Kamakhya Temple. Prime Minister also laid the foundation stone of International Standard Sports Stadium in Chandrapur and Guwahati Medical College and Hospital. Foundation stone of multiple road upgradation projects were also laid. These projects will boost the overall economic development of the region. Earlier, India's Prime Minister...
हमारे मंदिर, हमारी आस्था के स्थान, ये सिर्फ दर्शन करने की ही स्थली है ऐसा नहीं है। ये हजारों वर्षों की हमारी सभ्यता की यात्रा की अमिट निशानियां हैं। दुर्भाग्य से आजादी के बाद जिन्होंने लंबे समय तक देश में सरकारें चलाई, वो भी आस्था के इन पवित्र स्थानों का महत्व समझ नहीं पाए। मुझे संतोष है कि बीते 10 वर्षों में अब भारत में स्थितियां बदल गई है। भाजपा की डबल इंजन सरकार ने विकास और विरासत को अपनी नीति का हिस्सा बनाया है।
Earlier, India's Prime Minister held a roadshow in Guwahati. Thousands gathered to catch a glimpse of Prime Minister. People showered flowers to welcome Prime Minister. All right, indeed, India correspondent Vishal Baristo joins us from Guwahati for more. Vishal, can you provide more details about the Maa Kamakhya Access Corridor project and how it aims to enhance the amenities for pilgrims visiting the Kamakhya temple?
Well, a very good evening to you, Siddharth. As you heard the Prime Minister saying that any nation that does not respect its cultural values, its heritage, cannot become a developed country.
Yeah.
And so the BJP government at the center, both at the center and the state, they are focusing more on spiritual tourism, development of places of worship as far as infrastructure is concerned. Now, when we talk about this Maa Kamakhya corridor, it's a 498 crore project. It would provide an all-weather pedestrian connectivity for the pilgrims and also world-class amenities for the pilgrims. Assam, we all know, is gateway to the northeast, and all those who visit northeast, they make it a point that they go and worship at Maa Kamakhya temple. So when the infrastructural property, infrastructural development is there, and you have hotels and other amenities provided, then more and more people would come. And Prime Minister also gave the example of Ayodhya as to how in just 12 days, lakhs of devotees have visited Ayodhya. So he's focusing on discover your country and also is asking people to go back to their roots.
All right. And Vishal, what significance does the International Standard Sports Stadium in Chandrapur hold for the region, and how it is expected to benefit the community?
Well, Siddharth, it is not only Chandrapur. There are two stadiums coming up, sporting facilities, and we all know that Northeast is very good as far as football is concerned.
Yeah.
So Chandrapur would provide world-class, rather FIFA standard AstroTurf football. And then another at the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. It is also the AstroTurf facility and also a football stadium. And it would also cater to other sporting facilities as well. So when we talk about Assam as a gateway to the Northeast, and Northeast is also a powerhouse of sporting events, especially football. So definitely it would attract more and more youth talent as far as Guwahati is concerned.
All right. Vishal, and also, in what ways will the Guwahati Medical College and Hospital project contribute to the healthcare infrastructure in Assam? And what are the expected outcomes of this initiative?
If you heard Prime Minister's speech, he made it categorical. He made it quite categorical that earlier it was very difficult to even cross one district, go from one district to another, and transportation and infrastructure was a major challenge as far as Northeast is concerned. Now, when two medical colleges are coming up, it would enhance the medical facilities in the state, and also Assam is connected to states like Meghalaya and also Bihar and other states as well. I beg your pardon, Manipur, Meghalaya. So when we talk about medical facilities, it would help the people of the state, and from adjoining areas also people can visit, because Assam has a difficult terrain, and also people want to have better medical facilities in their vicinity. And also, Prime Minister said that in the earlier regime, there were only All India Institute of Medical Sciences was limited only to Delhi and some major cities. But his government wants to take these facilities to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities as well.
All right, we leave it there. Thank you so much, Vishal, for your analysis. And during his visit to eastern state Odisha on February 3rd, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met some of the distinguished Padma awardees from the state who have made rich contributions to our nation at the grassroots level. PM met Jitendra Haripal, a Padma Shri awardee of 2017 for his exemplary contribution to music. PM also met Dr. Krishna Patel, 2023 Padma Shri awardee, a celebrated Sambhalpuri folk singer whose mesmerizing voice has resonated for over 4 decades. PM Modi also met Mitra Bhanu Gontia, honored with Padma Shri in 2020. PM also met and appreciated the contribution of 2016 Padma Shri awardee Haldhar Nag in Sambhalpuri and Uriya literature. India's lower house or Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla paid floral tributes to former Lok Sabha Speaker M. Ananthasanyam Iyengar in the Central Hall in Samvidhan Sadan on his birth anniversary. Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha and other members of Parliament also paid floral tributes. M.A. Iyengar was a veteran freedom fighter and eminent parliamentarian. When the first Lok Sabha was constituted in 1952, M.A. Iyengar was the unanimous choice to be its deputy speaker. A Pakistani inter-services intelligence agent was arrested from the northern Indian city of Meerut in Uttar Pradesh on Sunday. The ISI agent named Satyendra Sehwal was posted at the Indian embassy in Moscow. He was posted since 2021 and was working as an India-based security assistant. Uttar Pradesh's anti-terrorism squad received a tip-off from sources, following which an interrogation with Sehwal was carried out. Sehwal confessed to spying and was arrested in Meerut. During the interrogation, Sehwal revealed that he extracted critical information about the Indian Army. He has also been accused of passing on crucial and confidential information about the Indian Embassy, Ministry of Defence and External Affairs to ISI handlers. India's External Affairs Ministry said that they are aware of the arrest and they will work with the investigative authorities in the matter. The Deputy Prime Minister of Fiji, Biman Prasad, is set to embark on a week-long visit to India starting Sunday. Prasad also serves as the Minister of Finance, Strategic Planning, National Development and Statistics for his country. He is also the first foreign leader to visit Ayodhya after Pran Pratishtha ceremony that took place on January 22nd. His official engagements will commence on Monday, a day after his arrival in the national capital. Biman Prasad had previously visited India in February 2023 on his first official trip to India. Well, still to come on DD India News Hour. Another day of saving by Indian Navy. Its Coast Guard ship saves a precious life in the dark hours. Marking the robust maritime ties between India and Sri Lanka, INS Karanj arrives in the port of Colombo ahead of Sri Lanka's 76th Independence Day celebrations.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India. Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Indian government has announced the inclusion of Asha and Anganwadi workers and helpers within the Ayushman Bharat scheme. In other words, the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. This means that the Asha workers, Anganwadi workers and their families will now also be able to benefit from free treatment and healthcare related services. Here's presenting this special report.
The hope of connecting every household in every village to health facilities, as well as the health of Anganwadi workers and their families, will now be the responsibility of the government. In the interim budget, the Modi government announced a big gift to these hope and Anganwadi workers. Apart from making others Ayushman cards, these workers will now have their own Ayushman card. This announcement has brought waves of happiness among Hope and Anganwadi workers and helpers throughout the country.
We are very grateful to Prime Minister Modi for providing us with free treatment under the Ayushman Bharat scheme.
I thank Prime Minister Modi for providing us with free insurance up to 5 lakhs under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. All the Asha workers are very happy about this.
Modi ji's Ayushman card plan has been very good for our Anganwadi workers and helpers. It is very good for our poor families, especially for the Anganwadi sisters, as it will enable them to get treatment in good hospitals for diseases.
So far, we were traveling to villages and providing convenience to others. But now, all Asha workers being provided Ayushman cards by our Prime Minister. We are thankful to him.
Within this announcement, more than 10 million Asha workers and more than 25 million Anganwadi workers and helpers have now come under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. These people will now be able to take advantage of the free treatment and medical facilities. On this, the Secretary of the Ministry of Women and Child Development, Indivar Pandey, said that including Asha and Anganwadi workers in the Ayushman Bharat scheme will increase their morale and that this will benefit more than 125 million people.
बहुत बड़ा कदम है.
You will see that there are 25 lakh Anganwadi workers and most of them mostly live in villages with joint families. So if we consider a family size of 6, then nearly 1.5 crore people will benefit from this. It will directly benefit them and provide them with the insurance which is beneficial.
का डर रहता है, वो एक खत्म हो जाता है.
Poor people are no longer deprived of treatment due to lack of money. For this, PM Modi started the world's largest health insurance scheme, the Ayushman Bharat Yojana, also known as the Prime Minister's Jan Arogya Yojana, in 2018. Under this, more than 50 million poor people are provided free treatment of up to 5 lakh rupees every year. It has also been ensured that transgender people are guaranteed free treatment under the Ayushman Bharat Yojana. Under the Prime Minister's Jan Arogya Yojana, more than 300 million Ayushman cards have been issued so far, and more than 67 million people have received free treatment. This has resulted in saving 1 lakh crore rupees for poor families. About 2,000 health packages are included in the scheme with 27 different special packages. So far, more than 27,000 private and government hospitals have been tied up with the scheme. In total, 48% of the beneficiaries are women. Speaking of diseases, the disease with the most benefit is kidney disease, followed by hemodialysis, treatment for cataracts, women's disease, heart disease, cancer, orthopedic disease, and bone-related treatments. The biggest benefit of the scheme is its portability, meaning that if your card is made in one state, you can also get treatment in panel hospitals in another state. Bureau Report, DT India.
School and higher education departments under Ministry of Education received an increased budget reallocation in interim budget. Budget positions India for incremental all-round development across sectors. Here's a report.
In these 10 years,
the budget allocation to Ministry of Education for the financial year 2024-25 is more than 734 million, which is the highest ever for the Department of School Education and Literacy. There has been an overall increase of 120 million in funds allocated to this department. While presenting the interim budget, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman highlighted the government's unwavering commitment to empowering the youth, notably the Amrit PD, which is the youth of the nation.
Empowering the Amrit PD, the Yuva. Our prosperity depends on adequately equipping and empowering the youth. The National Education Policy 2020 is ushering the transformational reforms. PM Schools for Rising India, PM Shri, are delivering quality teaching and nurturing holistic and well-rounded individuals.
The PM Shri initiative was notably mentioned as it is ensuring the delivery of high-quality education, while the Skill India mission has successfully trained more than 10 million youth, upskilled and reskilled more than 5 billion individuals, and established 3,000 new industrial training institutes. Biggest announcement of this budget is the Jai Anusandhan scheme, for which 1,000 billion has been announced as a corpus fund to promote research in academics. National Mission in Education through ICT targets to empower students digitally with 800 million increment in budget. Multidisciplinary education and research improvement in technical education got a 100% increase in budget for this year. Establishment of 3 centers of excellence in artificial intelligence was a big announcement with an allocation of 2,550 million for this year's budget. With this budget, India will pave the way for a golden era of research, innovation and entrepreneurship led by India's talented youth power. Kriti Vadhera for DD India.
Well, Hero MotoCorp showcased a rather unique concept called the Surge at Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024. It's a 3-wheeler that can be converted into 2-wheeler and vice versa in around 3 minutes. Both vehicles have their own electric motor and battery pack, but can be controlled using one set of controls. Our correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya with more details.
You guys have seen a lot of 3-wheelers in India. It's a very common sight, but have you seen a 3-wheeler which can turn into a 2-wheeler? Not sure, because this is the first of this kind of a hybrid machine, which is basically a 3-wheeler, but this can turn into a 2-wheeler. It's a passenger vehicle. It has a lot of capacity, carrying capacity. At the same time, you can take this out, you can park it somewhere, and if you wish to use only the 2-wheeler, you can just take it out. This is one of the classic example of how innovation can be done in a very limited way. In Surge, it's a startup that has been pioneered in Hero MotoCorp, and this is one of their classic example of a 3-wheeler that can turn into a 2-wheeler. It has a lot of carrying capacity. It can be used by small traders. It can be used as a passenger vehicle, and if you don't want any of that, you can use this as a 2-wheeler. How cool is that? With camera person, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
In India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the concluding ceremony of the year-long celebrations of S.N. Goenka's 100th birth anniversary via video message today. Prime Minister said that India needs to take the lead in making Vipassana more acceptable.
विपश्यना सेल्फ ऑब्जर्वेशन के माध्यम से सेल्फ ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन का मार्ग है। इसका महत्व तब भी था जब हजारों वर्ष पूर्व इसका जन्म हुआ, और आज के जीवन में ये और भी प्रासंगिक हो गई है। आज दुनिया जिस तरह की चुनौतियों से घिरी हुई है, उसका समाधान करने की बड़ी शक्ति विपश्यना में भी समाहित है। गुरुजी के प्रयासों की वजह से दुनिया के 80 से ज्यादा देशों ने ध्यान के महत्व को समझा है और इसे अपनाया है। आचार्य श्री गोयंका जी उन महान लोगों में से हैं जिन्होंने विपश्यना को फिर से एक वैश्विक पहचान दी।
And in a joint operation, the Indian Army and Kupwara police evacuated a pregnant lady who was stuck in heavy snowfall in Jammu and Kashmir's Kupwara district. Army Camp Wilgam received a distress call requesting for medical evacuation of the woman who was in critical condition. Despite heavy snow on the road, the rescue team hiked about 8 kilometers in 2 feet of snow and safely evacuated the woman. The family and doctors expressed gratitude to the Indian Army and Wilgam police for their swift action and timely assistance. Another rescue operations by Indian Navy responded to a distress call quickly. Indian Coast Guard ship saved a precious life in the dark hours. In a swift operation conducted in the night of 3rd of February, ship C-439 saved the life of a man who had fallen into sea off Mumbai from private yacht. Indian Coast Guard found a person hanging to anchor of a ship. The rescue operation lasted 3 hours. Moving on, Sri Lanka is celebrating its 76th National Independence Day today. The main celebrations are being held at Galle Face Green in Colombo amid tight security. The official ceremony commenced with the arrival of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The Prime Minister of Thailand, Srettha Thavisin, is the chief guest of the Independence Day celebrations, which is being held under the theme, Let's Build a New Country. This year's Independence Day celebration features a multitude of spectacular events with a march by members of the Tri-Forces, Police, Civil Defence Force and cadets celebrating Sri Lanka's independence. Now, Bangladesh has approved the import of 34,000 tons of potatoes from India. The decision comes as a solution to rein in the soaring prices of potatoes in Bangladesh ahead of the holy month of Ramadan. A total of 25 tons of potatoes were imported from India through Dinajpur's hilly land port on Saturday. The price of potatoes have now come down to 25 to 30 taka per kilograms at retail markets, which had earlier been priced at 40 to 45 taka. And let's take a look at other stories making news. A joint special forces exercise Khanjar between India and Kyrgyzstan culminated with the validation training and Baklo in India's Himachal Pradesh. The exercise facilitated synergy in the conduct of special operations and strengthened the understanding and interoperability between the two armed forces. The All India Institute of Medical Sciences in India's national capital New Delhi announced the opening of medical access points Ayushman Suvidha Kendra across all blocks and centres by 31st of March this year. Beneficiaries under the government's flagship healthcare scheme Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana will have 24/7 access to these services. Jammu and Kashmir's summer capital Srinagar in northern part of India received a fresh spell of snowfall. Shikaras, that are the wooden boats found on Srinagar's Dal Lake, were covered in a thick layer of snow. Still to come on DD India News Hour. US President wins South Carolina's Democratic primary. Leaders of South African Development Community come together to forge a joint cholera response plan aiming to control the spread of the disease in member states. Revelers in Buenos Aires mark the upcoming Lunar New Year of the Dragon in a festival with dragon dance performances. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj, and let's have a look at the headlines once again. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Assam, lays foundation stone of multiple projects worth more than $1.3 billion. The US and the United Kingdom strike multiple Houthi targets in Yemen. And in cricket, India sets a formidable target of 399 runs for England on the third day of the second test in Visakhapatnam. The US and the United Kingdom have struck multiple targets against Iran-linked Houthi group in Yemen. The UK government on Saturday called this third wave of strikes as proportionate and targeted. Its defense ministry released the footage and said precision-guided bombs were used to strike multiple targets near the Sana'a airfield. The strikes hit buried weapons storage facilities, missile systems, launchers and other capabilities the Houthis have used to attack Red Sea shipping. While United States Central Command also released photos showing a missile launch and flight operations for strikes. The Pentagon said it targeted 13 locations across the country. The US and Britain conducted the strikes against 36 targets in total in the second day of major US operations against Iran-linked groups following a deadly attack on American troops last weekend. The UN Security Council is going to hold an emergency meeting on Monday regarding the US strikes in Iraq and Syria. The meeting has been requested by Russia after accusing the US of intentionally aggravating the situation in the West Asia. Meanwhile, the United States has issued a warning of more potential airstrikes after carrying out an offensive against 85 targets in Iraq and Syria. This comes in response to a drone strike from an Iran-backed militia that killed 3 American service members. Our correspondent Nick Harper has the latest from Washington.
We've seen considerable anger from the Middle East in response to these US airstrikes, Iraq and Syria, that were struck by the United States, but also Iran, who has backed the militia in those 2 countries, all saying that the US has violated the sovereignty of both Syria and Iraq, and also saying that the US is threatening to create a wider conflict in the Middle East. Iraq and Syria also saying that civilians have been killed in these airstrikes. Now, the US says that they struck targets that they intended to, and they were also telegraphing for several days that these strikes were likely to take place. It seems in the hope of minimising casualties. Reports that many of the militia in those command centres that were hit had evacuated ahead of the strikes. But there's still that fear now as to whether the US airstrikes will create a deterrence or become a point of escalation in this conflict in the Middle East. Now, Joe Biden has said that he isn't seeking a wider war, but he's also said that these strikes that took place on Friday night US time were just the beginning, that there would be more strikes potentially in the coming days against other militia or other command centres within the region. Biden saying that it will continue at the time and place of the US choosing. So the US is trying to deter future attacks, but there is still that overriding fear that what the United States has done may prompt further escalatory action from any of those 3 countries in the region. Although I think it is worth noting that the United States chose not to target Iran itself. There were no attacks on Iranian soil, and we have not seen from Iran, despite the condemnation, any threats to retaliate as a result of these US strikes. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
The Israeli army released a video on Saturday showing explosions on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. The IDF said its fighter jets stuck 2 Hezbollah observation posts in a military command center. In a briefing on Saturday, Chief Military Spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said Israeli forces have attacked 34,000 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, including 120 border surveillance outposts, 40 kits of missiles and other weaponry, and more than 40 command centers. Hagari said Israel had deployed 3 army divisions along its side of the Lebanese border in anticipation of Hezbollah's involvement in the conflict between Hamas and Israel. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will travel to the West Asia next week. This will be Blinken's 5th trip of West Asia since the conflict between Israel and Hamas began on October 7 last year. The top U.S. diplomat will travel to Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, Israel and the West Bank. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller in a statement said the secretary will continue diplomatic efforts to reach an agreement that secures the release of all remaining hostages and includes a humanitarian pause that will allow for sustained, increased delivery of humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza. Well, update now on Russia-Ukraine conflict. Moscow has claimed that Ukrainian shelling on the eastern occupied city of Lysychansk has killed at least 28 people. 10 people were rescued from under the rubble. Russian forces said Kyiv had targeted a bakery that is popular on weekends. The attack came as Kyiv said Russia hit with a fresh barrage of Iranian-made drones, which targeted energy facilities in the Dnipropetrovsk region, leaving thousands without power. The U.S. President Joe Biden has had a decisive victory in the South Carolina primary, the first official nominating contest of the U.S. presidential election calendar. While Biden faced little opposition, the vote was being closely watched amid concerns about his popularity, especially with black voters. Biden defeated the other long-shot Democrats on South Carolina's ballot, including U.S. Representative Dean Phillips and author Marianne Williamson. U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris made a joint stop at their 2024 campaign headquarters on Saturday to rally staff and supporters ahead of a challenging re-election bid.
Well, it didn't take them too long to finish counting the votes here at Charleston County Board of Elections because the turnout was fairly low, but still an emphatic victory for President Biden in the state that he credits with propelling him to the White House in 2020. And in a statement on Saturday night, once again, he vowed that South Carolina would take him back to the White House once again. But this Republican-leaning state is unlikely to be a general election battleground come November. Even so, the Biden campaign has treated South Carolina's primary as an important contest. It spent money here on staff and advertising, essentially using the state to test messages aimed at black voters who typically make up around 2/3 of South Carolina's Democratic primary electorate. So, after months of polling that showed a growing percentage of black voters souring on Mr. Biden and his message, the primary was the first opportunity for them to deliver a verdict on the president. And though turnout was low, Democrats have been celebrating early data that showed a 13% increase in the share of black voters compared with 2020. So South Carolina may not be up for grabs for Joe Biden come November, but how well he can energize black voters here could forecast how well he'll do in other parts of the country. And as he prepares for what looks like it will be another rematch with former President Donald Trump, every vote will count. Kate Fisher in Charleston, South Carolina, reporting for DD India.
Swiss farmers protest against rising costs and low prices for their produce, joining a movement that has spread across Europe. The protest included around 30 tractors parked on a square in the center of Switzerland's second largest city. Farmers driving up to 40 tractors also took part in protest in the Basel region. Farmers' protests have erupted in several European countries in a sign of anger at low prices for produce, rising costs, cheap imports and constraints imposed by EU's drive to fight climate change. Rudy Burley, president of the Geneva Farmers Union, said Switzerland's two main distributors dictate the prices paid to farmers and that the protesters were asking Parliament to bring in measures that would allow farmers to negotiate more fairly with the buyers of agricultural produce. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife Bushra Khan were sentenced to 7 years in prison and fined by a court that ruled their 2018 marriage violated the law. It was the third adverse ruling against the former Prime Minister this week and comes ahead of national elections that he is barred from contesting. The two were each fined $1,800. Bushra was accused of not completing the waiting period mandated by Islam after divorcing her previous husband and marrying Khan. The Khans signed their marriage contract in January 2018 in a secret ceremony 7 months before Imran Khan became Prime Minister for the first time. Khan is in prison in garrison city of Rawalpindi, while his wife had been allowed to serve her sentence at their hilltop mansion in Islamabad. El Salvador goes to the polls on Sunday to choose a president. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele is expected to be re-elected for another 5-year term despite a constitutional bar on immediate re-election. The supporters of 42-year-old Bukele see a leader whose iron-fisted policies defeated the country's murderous gangs, while his critics are calling him a modern-day autocrat. Namibia's president, aged 82, has died in hospital early on Sunday. The news came in less than 3 weeks after it was announced he would undergo treatment for cancer. Geingob, who also served a 12-year stint as Prime Minister, had a history of health problems that preceded his election as Namibia's third president in 2014. Namibia is scheduled to hold presidential and parliamentary elections in November. The heads of state and government of the Southern African Development Community, SADC, have proposed a joint cholera response plan to control the spread of disease in the member states. Thousands of people have been infected and hundreds have died in the region from the disease since late last year. Let's get the latest information on this from DD India's correspondent, Isaac Lucando.
Leaders of the Southern African Development Community, SADC, have recommended synchronized cross-border vaccination campaigns against cholera. Since January last year, cholera has affected Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, Zambia, Tanzania and the DRC, among others. Experts say this outbreak could be the worst cholera crisis in Southern Africa in years. UN agencies have reported 200,000 plus infections and 300,000 plus deaths in 13 African countries since last year. January alone witnessed 6,000 new cases and 355 deaths in 9 countries. SADC member states say they aim to enhance their ability to assess the risk of outbreaks across borders and improve public health surveillance. The economic bloc also plans joint efforts to improve early detection and disease prevention. Cholera, waterborne and lethal, mostly impacts communities with poor water and sanitation. Isaac Lucando in Dar es Salaam reporting for DD India.
And 14 soldiers of Myanmar's paramilitary border guard police took refuge on Sunday in Bangladesh. The soldiers fled their post to Cox's Bazar region in Bangladesh amid reports of heavy gunfights between the government troops and the rebel resistance fighters in Myanmar. The paramilitary guards crossed the border through the Gumdum border along with their weapons and sought refuge to their BGB counterparts in Cox's Bazar. Bangladesh has ordered an intensified security vigil on its border with Myanmar after tensions intensified between government troops and the rebel fighters of Arakan Army. And let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Turkey handed over keys to newly completed homes to some of those left homeless after last year's devastating earthquake, 1 year after country's deadliest disaster. The government has planned to give a total of 2 million houses to the victims this year. Powerful quakes on February 6, 2023 in southern Turkey killed more than 50,000 people in 11 provinces and left millions homeless. The upcoming Lunar New Year of the Dragon in a festival with the dragon dance performances was celebrated in the Argentinian capital. China's ambassador to Argentina, Wang Wei, took part in the event by drawing the eyes on one of the dragons. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Be it drought or floods, we get a comprehensive peek into how different parts of the world are braving weather fury. February 4th marks World Cancer Day to raise awareness to encourage its prevention, detection and treatment.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and time now for sport. And India was all out for 255 in their second innings, setting England a victory target of 399 on day 3 of the second test in Visakhapatnam. Shubman Gill top scored for India with 104, while Akshar Patel contributed 45. Gill capitalized on the reprieves to register his first test 100 in 13 innings and helped India consolidate its position. Tom Hartley and Rehan Ahmed shone with the bat for England, who are 1-0 ahead in the 5-match series. Hartley took 4 wickets for 77 runs and Ahmed grabbed 3 wickets for 88 runs. Well, Hemant Kankare, former cricketer and commentator, joins us for more. Sir, very warm welcome to the show. 399 is the target. What do you think? It's Visakhapatnam. Tell us something about the track. And will England have a chance here to, win it?
Okay, honestly, I mean, one can't really predict because, England's a dangerous team, as we saw in the first test match that was played, last week, and they just beat us comprehensively. And everybody in the world said that, England has an inexperienced bowling attack, but somehow, they turned to be better than us. As far as the track in Visakhapatnam is concerned, we can see throughout the game so far, it's not a bad track. It tends to keep low a bit and maybe a couple of balls probably trying to, jump up. So I really wouldn't, it's going to be a very, very difficult task for England to score 399 runs. It's never easy. But don't forget 2002 Edgbaston, when they were set to chase 370 plus. Yeah. And, Joe Root and Johnny Bairstow did that with comparative ease. And they won the game by 3 wickets. So, I mean, they've got a lot of experience. They've got Stokes, they've got Root, they've got, the first test centurion, Ollie Pope, and of course, Johnny Bairstow, and so you really can't, what shall I say, assume that just because we're playing in the subcontinent, and also I've realized that this pitch has not really been one of those dust bowl turners that, the English media keeps complaining about. It's a good, decent wicket. It's a decent, only thing it's going to get slower and slower as the game progresses. So it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a very exciting game of cricket tomorrow.
Well, but at the same time, like you've said, we cannot just predict what's going to happen. But if you are saying on one side, England might, incorporate their baseball. But we also have a very we have a splendid bowling lineup. We have Jasprit Bumrah, one-man army.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you said it right. It's literally a one-man army unless, Ashwin, Ravichandran Ashwin, Akshar Patel and Kuldeep Yadav decide to come to the party. And if that happens, it'll be great. And also don't forget that as the wicket goes on playing, it's going to be slower and slower. So it's going to be a little tad more difficult for Bumrah to, show the same kind of magic that he showed in the first innings. What a spell it was, 6 for 45. I mean, on these kind of wickets, outstanding. I mean, you got a maestro like James Anderson showing him the way. And I would say the younger Turk, if I may put it that way, Jasprit Bumrah, bowling so beautifully. So, yes, it's a one-man army. Hopefully the other soldiers may probably decide to chip in.
All right, with this, thank you so much, sir, for joining in. Let's hope India comes out with flying colours. Well, India's Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports has suspended the Paralympic Committee of India with immediate effect for failing to conduct elections on time and non-compliance of the guidelines. The ministry pointed out that the tenure of the executive committee of the body ended on January 31 this year, and the election to form a new committee should have been conducted before the expiry of the term. The ministry has also informed the International Paralympic Committee, which is the sport's global governing body, about the decision and formation of an ad hoc body. The ad hoc body composed of distinguished administrators and sportspersons. The suspension means that Indian para-athletes will not be allowed to enter any IPC-sanctioned competition, including this year's Paralympic Games in Paris under the national flag. All right, the Indian Davis Cup team secured a place in World Group 1 after resounding 4-0 victory against Pakistan on Sunday in Islamabad. In the doubles, Yuki Bhamri and Saket Mayani notched up easy win in the playoff tie against Muzammil Murtaza and Akil Khan. The Indian pair subdued the home team 6-2, 7-6 to extend India's dominance over Pakistan in the tournament. In the reverse singles, Indian Nikki Poonacha cruised past youthful Mohammad Shoaib 6-3, 6-4. India's overall record in the Davis Cup against Pakistan is 8-0. Now India will compete in World Group 1 in September this year. Weather updates from across the globe. Wildfires raged through South Africa's Western Cape coastal towns, prompting evacuations. Helicopters were seen dousing flames with seawater as thick smoke enveloped Pringle Bay and Betty's Bay. The cause of the wildfires is under scrutiny, with dry and hot weather conditions blamed for widespread blaze. Forest fires raging in central Chile have killed over 50 people so far. Chile's President Gabriel Boric has warned that death toll is likely to keep rising. More in this report.
At present, the world is grappling with the adverse effects of global warming. While some areas are experiencing wildfires, others are facing floods. Every effort is being made to deal with natural disasters. But until our efforts yield positive results, is there any way to save the planet from this catastrophe? Chile is currently grappling with a critical weather crisis as devastating wildfires have ravaged the central Valparaiso region, with approximately 480 hectares of land engulfed in flames.
The fire in the Melosila sector, where we are right now, has affected close to 480 hectares. It was caused by the weather conditions, the temperature, extreme heat.
The Melosila area has been severely affected, a tragedy attributed to soaring temperatures and exacerbated by strong winds.
The outcome has been the loss of over 50 lives, and concerns arise that this number may escalate.
We need help, food for our pets, supplies, clothes. I don't know. My house, I lost everything.
The aftermath is grim, with drone footage displaying the desolate remnants of scorched homes, highlighting the severity of the situation as the deadliest forest fire outbreak in the past 10 years.
From one moment to the next, the fire reached the botanical park. In 10 minutes, the fire was already on us. There was smoke, the sky turned black, everything was dark. The wind felt like a hurricane. It was like being in hell.
The entire nation is plagued by 92 active fires, resulting in over 43,000 hectares being impacted, with 7,000 burned hectares in Valparaiso alone.
My wife had a workshop with workout gear and I had my workshop with swing machines.
The situation remains critical, necessitating continued vigilance and support. Bureau Report, DT India.
Every year, February 4 is observed as World Cancer Day, a day to spread awareness in the fight against cancer. Cervical cancer is the second most common cancer affecting women. People from all over the world come together to prevent cancer and raise awareness about its spread. Let's take a look at the report.
World Cancer Day, observed on February 4 each year, serves as a global initiative to raise awareness about cancer, its prevention, detection and treatment. The day aims to reduce the burden of cancer-related illnesses and deaths worldwide. Cervical cancer is the second most prevalent type of cancer among women. For bolstering women's health, during the Budget 2024, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced free vaccination for girls in the age group of 9 to 14 years for the prevention of cervical cancer.
सबसे पहले तो सर्वाइकल कैंसर वैक्सीन ही अपने में एक बहुत बड़ी बात है, क्योंकि दिस इज़ द ओनली कैंसर एट प्रेजेंट जो हम वैक्सीन से पूरी तरह से प्रिवेंट कर सकते हैं. सो एटलीस्ट, और ये एक ऐसा कैंसर है जो आज भी हमारे देश में, मतलब हर रोज़ 200 से ज़्यादा महिलाएं और अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 200 लेडीज़ दे डाई बिकॉज ऑफ सर्वाइकल कैंसर. तो इतनी बड़ी मात्रा में लोग जिस वजह से अपनी जान खो रहे हैं, और आने वाले टाइम में आज हम वो बात कर रहे हैं कि अगर हम वैक्सीनेशन को फुल फ्लेज तरीके से इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं तो आने वाले टाइम में इस कैंसर को ही हम पूरी तरह से इरेडिकेट कर देंगे.
Early detection is crucial for successful treatment of cancer. Nowadays, advanced technology can network and improve the infrastructure and resource models and ensure optimal utilization of available cancer care services.
100 कैंसर अगर होंगे तो 20-25% लोगों में ये टारगेटेड थेरेपी का इस्तेमाल हो सकता है। बाकी में कीमोथेरेपी और इम्यूनोथेरेपी की दवाइयाँ देते हैं जिससे कि कैंसर्स कंट्रोल होते हैं।
कैंसर स्क्रीनिंग के लिए गवर्नमेंट ने ब्रेस्ट स्क्रीनिंग का प्रोग्राम चला रखा है, सर्वाइकल स्क्रीनिंग का प्रोग्राम चला रखा है, ओरल कैंसर के लिए स्क्रीनिंग का प्रोग्राम चला रखा है। लेकिन शहरों के लोग भी जो कि पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं, जिनको इन चीज़ों के बारे में अंदेशा है, हम लोग कितने अपनी तरफ से एफर्ट्स लेते हैं कि जाके खुद को स्क्रीन कराएं। गवर्नमेंट स्क्रीनिंग प्रोग्राम में अगर हम नहीं जाना चाहते हैं तो कम से कम प्राइवेट स्क्रीनिंग फैसिलिटीज़ में जा सकते हैं।
रियलाइजेशन होना चाहिए कि कैंसर हमें उन्हें हो सकता है और उसके लिए जो भी प्रिवेंटिव तरीके हो सकते हैं, चाहे वो टोबैको कंट्रोल करना हो, चाहे वो अल्कोहल कंट्रोल करना हो, चाहे वो एक्सरसाइज ज़िंदगी में अपनानी हो, चाहे वो सही खान पान करना हो, तो उन पर ध्यान दें।
There are many types of cancer, the risk of it being seen in people of all ages. Regular medical checkups and lifestyle modifications can help reduce the risk of death from cancer. The risk of cervical and breast cancer is highest in women, while the risk of lung, prostate and colon cancer is highest among men. Bureau Report, DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
अच्छी चीजों में समय लगता है, खूबसूरती